part of harvesting walnuts is scouting out your locations. So as you're driving around, you know, you get super distracted being like, oh, walnut, oh, walnut. So there's this walnut tree. You can see it's kind of white bark, white tree with all those walnuts. I have a hand cracker. Okay, so before you go and spend all your energy harvesting tons of these, test them first. So you want to test how easily the nut cracks and how well entrenched the meat is within the little grooves of the walnut, because so this one's kind of a winner. It comes out pretty easily from the shell. That's a good walnut. So we know that the walnut tree in its roots and in its leaves sends out a hormone that starts with a J that prevents a lot of plants from growing. It stunts their growth. So as I'm moving the leaves across, you see there's some rich soil here where this stuff has broken down, and I can tell there's a lot of organic material in this soil. So while you don't exactly want to grab all this and put it in your veggie garden to break down, it does perk my interest and my intrigue, the whole plant. I know someone who saves the shells and he puts them in his wood burning stove. I don't have a wood burning stove. I really hate throwing away organic material. So there's got to be a use for this material that might stunt the growth of some things, but you do want that organic material. So just in a short 5 minutes, I've got this bucket. Went and finished hitting up one of my favorite trees. It's a gold standard tree. It gets water from the irrigation. It's kind of tucked away so no one knows about it. And the owners gave me permission. Except the downside is this year they have cows. So do you see the tree and the swing set that the kids play on, the pavilion? There's a cow back there. It goes over, it eats the walnuts on that side of the tree. So our harvest was less this year because cows like to eat walnuts. In the car again because we're on a noisy road. This is a beautiful, huge, old walnut tree, and I used to have a job as a crossing guard right here at this location. So I would kind of, in between crossing kids, I'd go harvest the walnuts. I mean, that's a big walnut. Okay, sad part is the shell is very hard. So it hurts your hands to harvest. So the shell is a lot thicker for this tree. It hurts your hands to pry them apart, and the meat it gets really stuck in the crevices of the walnut, so you end up having to use like a knitting needle to pry the meat out. So it takes a lot longer to harvest just all these little teeny tiny pieces of walnut, whereas other varieties you almost get clunk clunk and you got a whole brain in your hand.
They're tiny.
Yeah, those are tiny. So kind of a shame because I mean there's a lot of meat in there, but for your time it's just not good.
Show them this.
And I had permission from that tree owner.
Show them this.
It's right by my house. It was right by my job. Yeah.
Can you see
That's a
it?
popcorn kernel.
You get giant now.
Yeah. So not all walnut trees are made equal. Another downside to this location is there are so many goat heads and stickers and weeds and barbed wire to climb over, and the busy road. It just sometimes is not worth it.
I had hopes in my shoes.
Hey Lily, go ahead and teach people how to crack walnuts.
Take a piece, stick it in. Crack it. Take it out. You see? That's how it
Ooh, that was a very good example of how children crack walnuts.
Yay! And mommy cracked that little one.
Yeah. Hand one. It's always good as a safety precaution. Put your hand on top of the nut so the pieces don't go flying. That's in the way. Should we pinch?
Yes, I think I'm gonna get reading.
This one's pretty dry. So one like that, I would kind of try and save what I thought was still moist.
Watch this.
So that end's fat and moist. Ooh, see, she put her hand over it to keep it safe from flying pieces at people's eyes. I've kind of modified this by adding an extra bolt, so they can't quite squeeze it as far, because otherwise this is what kids do. They go all the way as they can. Move your hand, Lily. They go as far as they can, and they pulverize your nut. And then they just turn it into mash. So you just want to crack it enough so you can get in there.
And you can eat the meat.
And you can eat the meat.
That's how it's done.
Yep, thanks, Jack. So I first started to harvest foraging walnuts when my two oldest were this age. And I spent $75 on ordering this one. And they would help me. It's good for them to be helpful, crack and harvest. And then they would really just eat them. So even if it has the husk on it, it's fine. Oh, Lily, that one's kind of really crooked. Look at that husk. But it's helpful to take it off. Okay. Put your hand over it so it doesn't... I don't... What do you want me to do? Okay. Put your hand over it. Are you going to put your hand over it, or you want me to do that?
That was an easy one.
Yeah, that was an easy one.
And the next didn't go flying. Oh, this one's still not
Okay, so this is a good example. This one has a lot of the husk still on it, and the shell itself is getting stained from the husk. So a good chance is the nut is going to be stained also.
Oh, Mommy. We need to crack this one.
It's a little dark. Not that dark. Anyways, okay. It doesn't hurt the nut at all for it to be stained, but the darker the nut, the stronger the flavor, which is good or bad. Okay, well look, you have to put it in just right, or else it won't crack it right. Okay. Good job. So I'll crack a bunch, and then pry them all apart. Kind of get a assembly line going. Okay, Jackie just wants to help. I think this cracker was between $10 and $20. He just wants to help. Jack. Here, Jack. This is the other part of having children help. Oh, don't hit him.
Hi. Look what we did.
We did like maybe a cup and a half of walnuts.
Oh, it's her.
This next step is completely optional, but it's kind of, I recommend it if you have walnuts that have been stained by the husk. We're gonna cover it with water. Okay, and we're gonna let that sit on the counter overnight. Okay, Lily. Okay, and then we'll drain that off and then put them on a rack to dry.
Yes.
until they're dry and crisp again. And that just helps kind of, the soak takes some of the tannins out of the walnut and makes them less bitter. The darker the walnut, it's going to have more tannins.
Tomorrow I'm going to play Smash.
Okay. So soaking them, and you get more of the tannin. So after you have them dried, you didn't see that compliment. You didn't see that. You eat healthy. Okay. These have been. Look how they look kind of sad, don't they? Dark. And these ones have gotten dark. That's because I froze them. So walnuts have a lot of oils in them, we know that, and those oils can go rancid once they're exposed to air and moisture. These ones have been chopped and then sit in the fridge for when I'm ready to use them. But if you just leave the walnuts in the shell, they're good for like a year, maybe 9 months. Depends on your proper storage technique. So it's actually been more than 24 hours since I started soaking these walnuts, but that's okay. It's not gonna hurt it to go longer than that. Definitely, probably not 48 hours. You might have some fermentation going on, but check out this color. So the water's not clear anymore. There's like a ring of gunk around the outside. And check out the color when we drain it off. Hashtag real life, hashtag dirty dishes in the sink. So they're still like pretty and white. And then you just lay that on a tray. Nuts have been drying for a day.
Yeah.
And they do look darker. The kind of creamy white part is a little bit darker, and it will get darker as we freeze it. If you don't get them dry enough and then you put them in a sealed container, they're gonna mold because of that extra moisture content. So just a great way is by putting them in the freezer. That way you're protecting the oils from going rancid, and any moisture is not gonna grow mold. Some people really like walnuts raw, and some people don't. Some people love them baked. Some people say you should never put nuts in baked goods.
Yeah, and this one's a little soft.
Yep.
And it's a little soggy.
I like collecting them most primarily for our family to eat, but also they make really good gifts to give away, like neighbor gifts at Christmas time, because everyone's baking already, right? So give them some nuts. Chickens or pigs. You can go and collect all those walnuts that are not people, okay, and feed them to your pigs and turn it into bacon that way. I hope this was helpful for any of you foragers, homegrown foodies out there.